All right, guys, it's Thursday. After a long week, which I will explain soon. Cheers. It's not quite Friday yet, but Sunday, ordered a bunch of parts. Stuff started showing up yesterday. I ordered a drive shaft on Monday. We're going to finish out this video on that. No. So, guys, here's what went wrong. Everything has kind of gone wrong in one way or another, or it has fought me. I wouldn't say gone wrong, just fought me. I think I may have done too many things at once, and it just kind of got overwhelming because once I get stuff, I like to get it done. So first thing, my AFCO shocks that I bought, they're 80/20s. Guys on Yellow Bullet recommended them. Slow my front end rise, get the car to hook good. So I got them. First problem is the bolt holes on the T-bar were too narrow. On my old three-ways, they're slots, so it was never an issue. Me being me, I'm trying to get them in there, I'm fighting them. And I'm also kind of fighting the spring because the spring, once they're fully released, kind of has an arc to them. So I kind of have to push it out of the way to get the shock all the way up there. They do rub a little bit, but this one has like a tiny rub mark, but that's the worst of it. So either way, finally get the shock up there, realize, oh, after fighting all that, the bolt holes are too narrow. So I had to file them by hand. 20-minute job turned into like a 1-hour ordeal. After that, I'm like, cool, we got the alternator. It's easy, right? Wrong. The pulley diameter was wrong. My belt didn't work. I needed a battery lead straight from the alternator to a battery source, which I ended up using a junction that I have on the fender. It was very close to the battery versus adding a bunch of extra wire to go to the battery. So it's very close, but I used a 4-gauge wire, and I actually did that today. And then I also had to change the pulley because the belt size that I had got, the closest one they had at the parts store to mine was just a little too big. But as a pack rat, I got a bunch of pulleys, all kinds of different year pulleys for Oldsmobiles. And I actually was running the smallest one they make, which is like a factory under-driven pulley. These are usually for like non-AC cars, I think. I may have that wrong. But either way, I took this out, and hopefully I actually speed up the alternator a little bit with the stock size bigger one. Either way, that's taken care of. The shocks are taken care of. And then the biggest pain in my ass today was the flow cooler water pump. Now, the reason why I'm changing the water pump is because the last time I drove it on like between 75 and 80 degrees, pretty muggy day, car was running about 15 to 20 degrees warmer than I had really wanted to. In the past, I've driven this car on pretty miserable days, especially after a full day of racing, driving it home at like 94 degrees and like 80% humidity. This thing only hit 210 at the lights. So on that particular day, I was hitting just a little under 200. I'd really like this car around 180 on a 75, 80 degree day. No reason why it shouldn't do it. So the flow cooler water pump is supposed to flow 30% more, keep like 20 degrees cooler. Hopefully that works. And I also do have to reposition my water pump drive because the pump that I bought was a different length because I run the Moroso water pump drive. So length doesn't matter to me. I put the motor wherever. So I have to change that, no big deal. But the water pump really pissed me off because, you know, it's supposed to fit, it's supposed to work, you spend good money, and I'm going to show you guys. So this is the way the water pump sits on the engine, you know, you facing it. So this bottom section here, right about here, where my finger is, it's hitting the timing tab. The aluminum casting on this is a little robust, and I probably should have done a dry fit, but me putting my good faith in quality parts that I paid good money for, I mean, is that out of line? That's going to be the theme here today. So me being me and putting my faith that I bought good quality parts, I go to put it in, it's hitting my timing tab. So I kind of had to bend it, I kind of had to tighten beyond that point of binding it. So hopefully it doesn't leak. It's tight down on there. I got a full even squish of RTV around the whole water pump, so I got a good clamp on there. You know, and hopefully it should be good. And if it leaks, then I'm going to have to grind on my brand new part that area of the water pump to get a better clamping force. But I don't think that's going to be the case, to be honest with you. So hopefully no leaks there. So guys, before I forget, if you get the flow cooler water pump, do a dry fit and make sure that it doesn't hit the timing tab on the driver's side of the water pump. So with that being said, I'm going to get to the next point. My drive shaft, that was a fucking saga, and I'm a little bit pissed about that. So let me give you guys a hypothetical. I work on cars for a living. When I make a mistake, whether I make it or I took the customer's word at full face value, that's on me. Okay? I work on commission, I flag hours. When I make a mistake, it not only costs me money, but it costs my employer money. So, I call the drive shaft shop on Monday. I say, hey, I need a drive shaft for my 72 Cutlass. He asked me a bunch of questions. What transmission, what rear end, what kind of U-joints, everything you could have asked. And then he asked me for the measurement. I'm like, well, I went ahead and I measured center to center on the ears. It's 55 inches. And he's like, cool, that's perfect. He asked me a bunch of questions. I answered him. I gave him the length, the measurement. I told him center to center on the ears of the U-joints on the drive shaft. Gave him the length. So I do all that. I go pick up the drive shaft on Tuesday. I'm all excited. I got an upgraded drive shaft that can handle more power. I'm trying to be as safe as possible. My first time out at the track in over a year. Over a year. And I'm trying to be as safe as possible. So I get the drive shaft, I go to put it in, won't go in. So automatically I lay the drive shaft down, I compare it center to center, the measurement is there, I start looking elsewhere, I realize the yoke is pretty robust, it's a lot different than the stock yoke. So I automatically think there's a problem here, something was done wrong. So I call the drive shaft shop up and I tell him, look, I gave you the measurement center to center on the ear. This thing ain't going in. And off the bat, he's like, well, what are you looking at that's different? And I told him, I'm like, look, I measured the yoke and there's an area on the yoke where it bottoms out. Let's see if I got it. Here, got it ready. So on the yoke, where it bottoms out, on the upgraded one, this arc was a lot bigger. It's beefier. It was more robust to handle horsepower. Of course, naturally, it's going to be beefier. But this area where it bottoms out was like here, and the snout was a little longer. So the yoke was a lot different. So we kind of went back and forth on the phone. Tells me, bring both your drive shafts in. We're going to figure this out and see what's going on. Because I don't know what you're telling me over the phone, and I can't fix it over the phone. And I'm like, well, done. So I take both drive shafts on my lunch, lay them on the counter, and right away he tells me, that's a 4-speed yoke. And this is where I kind of got mad. So we went back and forth. Essentially, I want the shop to pay for their mistake. They didn't ask me one crucial question. If he knew that was a 4-speed yoke, if he knew that there's different style yokes, and you see, this is what really got me mad, and I could have gone further and really told the guy, but I held back. Because ultimately, I have this money tied up in this drive shaft and I have to have this shop fix it yet again. Because I'm not going to take it somewhere else and pay full price. At that point, he said, I'll meet you in the middle because I can't be fully liable for your ignorance. And that's what he flat out told me in front of another customer. Now, with that being said, that kind of really pissed me off. I kind of went back a little bit on after that, right? I'm going to be cool about this. But what really gets me is, you take something to a specialty shop. They ask you a bunch of questions. You give them your measurement. If he himself, as a specialist, as a professional, knew there is various types of yokes that these stock GM cars had, and the fact that these cars have been on the road for almost 50 years, especially mine, a lot of things could have changed. My drive shaft probably came out of a 4-speed car. I got it out of a 70 Cutlass that had a turbo 350. but it was a 4-speed yoke. It was slightly different. That's at least what he wants to claim. That's what he told me. So I was stuck paying for half the price of cutting and rebalancing my drive shaft after I had paid the full price. Now, who's wrong here? And this is probably one of those things where I want people to tell me whether I'm justified in me feeling kind of pissed off. I'm not going to do name drops because you know what? I make mistakes, but I don't think I've ever blamed the customer flat out and said, I'm going to take care of it because of your ignorance. There has been times where I have given hours and hours of labor away at my cost, shop's cost, to fix problems that weren't even ours, but since we were repairing that area, we are automatically obligated to keep our customers satisfied, and we fixed it. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it, because from one professional to another, yeah, there's times where mistakes are made, and that was one big miscommunication where as a professional, as a specialist, he should have known there's various styles of yokes and a lot of things have been changed to these cars. And then he goes on and tells me, well, we do a bunch of drive shafts for this restoration shop, and when they tell us this measurement, it falls exactly perfect if it's got the correct yoke. Well, I didn't have the correct yoke. I'm not a restoration shop. I'm a guy who bought a very in great shape stock drive shaft. No dents, no pits, no nothing, no shimmies, no wobbles. I ran that drive shaft as I took it out of a car, painted it, put it in this car, ran it for 3 years, no problems. So as far as I know, it's the right drive shaft. I had the right amount of clearance between the yoke and the tail shaft. Everything worked. So with that being said, you know, I got this yoke. I got the yoke that was in my car with my drive shaft, and then the yoke that he showed me was different than this. So right off the bat, and I didn't pursue it any further. And then if you look it up, there's a lot of different styles of stock yokes for the GM cars that fit the 4L60Es or whatever they are, the electronic, pretty much a 350 overdrive electronics, which is a modern version of it. The Turbo 350, the Muncies, it fits this yoke fits many transmissions. A lot of things, you know, it could have been repaired. So as a specialty shop, you would think that they would know that. And I'm not so mad about spending the $35 as the fact that I was flat out called ignorant. And I'm sorry, but I make mistakes, and I just feel like this is the first time that I have ever had a dealing like this in 15 years as a professional and as a hobbyist. I've never been called ignorant. Mind you, I have taken rods and pistons to a machine shop that I numbered incorrectly because I didn't know any better. And when I went to go to put the engine together, well, they thought the numbers that I had put down were for cylinder. I numbered them as I took them apart. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was an inboard and outboard side of the rod. But you know what the machine shop did? They said, I'm going to teach you how to do it. We're going to fix your mistake. They took me out in the back of the shop and we pressed them. It took us 20 minutes. Guy told me, hey, just give me $20. Take this as a learning lesson. That's what they did. And it was a mom and pop operation, and so was this drive shaft shop. There's two very different ways to handle that. But instead of, dealing with it the right way, and yeah, I was a little angry, but no matter how angry customers get at us, I don't think I've ever lost my cool to the point to flat out call a customer ignorant. And I am passionate about how we deal with our customers at our shop, because we have a lot of repeat customers, and I like to believe that we treat them right. And we've had customers where we've done stuff and they've had to bring their cars back because we've made mistakes, but I've been up front with them and said, hey, I messed up, but I'm going to take care of this and I'm going to make sure it's right. And guess what? Those customers come back. We're honest. So who made the mistake here, guys? Me or the shop? Let me know. Again, as always, thank you for watching. Subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Copper's Garage, YouTube, Copper Cutlass, Instagram, Copper Cutlass. This is one where I want you guys to tell me, so please chime in, share, subscribe.